I had a physical situation where I was told you basically have like a sexually transmitted disease that never goes away.
Wow.
It's not like rampant. It doesn't like, but like it's there now.
Yeah.
And you can keep it dormant through medication, but like it's not going anywhere.
It's not going anywhere.
So not only did I have to share with my now wife about my kind of past choices, but now it's like, hey, if you choose me,
you getting this back.
You're choosing this too.
Yeah. Wow.
And in the midst of that, she showed grace.
Wow.
And we're doing premarital counseling. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, that felt this is bad. Like it felt too easy. Like she just accepted it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so she was like, I believe you can get healed. And she was like, throw away the medicine. I was like, if something were to happen, like a flare-up was to happen, it can be painful.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a good idea. She's like, do you believe you can be healed? Like, do you believe that God is a healer and that he loves you? Do you think he's capable of healing you? And I'm like, yeah. Will he? Feels like a different question.
Yeah.
Is he capable? Absolutely.
Wow.
She's like, I think you need to believe for it. And I was like, all right. Threw it away.
Wow.
And 3-4 weeks before our wedding, I went back to the doctor's office and got tested. No sign of it. No detection. And I'm telling you, like, it's in your blood.
Wow.
It gets, you know what I mean? Like, as long as you've been off the medication for a period of time, like, they will detect it if it's there.
Wow.
I called. I was like, hey, how accurate are your tests? Wow. They were like, were you exposed in the last however long? I'm like, no, it's been way longer than that. Have you taken the medication in the last? No, it's been way longer than that. So you don't have any STIs or STDs. None. And I have not had a single issue ever.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Faith Ignite podcast, and we're so excited you decided to join us for today's episode. Hey, we have a really good guest on the platform today, and we're going to talk a lot about sports, some things about school, about banking, so on and so forth. But before I introduce our guest, hey, I want to actually do a few things. Hey, if this podcast is helping you, shaping you, motivating you, encourage you, I would ask that you just go hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, turn that notification bell on so you are aware when new episodes drop. Because when you do that, you help us to be able to broaden our reach. We can be able to reach more people with this content. And trust me, it helps the platform. It helps us a lot being able to do our mission, being able to take these stories of faith around the world to the people that need them. And hey, if you want to take your faith just one step further, we'd ask that you become a partner with Faith Ignite. You can follow the link below. It'll take you to our website, and you can become a financial partner of this ministry and help us do what God has called us to do. And then lastly, hey, if something's going on in your life, we would ask that you just drop a comment below. We would take time to read that, to see what God's doing, and be able to celebrate with you as we can be able to share that story with more people around the world, to the people that need them. So now that we have all of that out of the way, like I said, our guest, he's a banker slash basketball player slash financial guru, I would say. And so real quick, our guest, Mikey Manghum, was born and raised in the UK, and during that time played basketball there, and then moved to the US around 2009 to play basketball for Oral Roberts University. And from there, he was able to discover what it was he wanted to do, and that was in finance, that was in banking. And then he was able to walk in that. God opened up some crazy, crazy doors for him to be able to land where he is today. And he's an equity partner in one of the private wealth firms here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And so he'll go into more detail, but ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Mr. Mikey Manghum.
Come on. I need you to go everywhere with me, man. I love that intro.
I'll be like your hype man kind of thing.
Yeah, hey, let's roll.
So, Mikey, for those that don't know you, who do I have the pleasure of sitting with?
Who is Mikey?
Yeah, who's Mikey?
Man, who is Mikey? Man, Mikey is, I think, first and foremost, a follower of Christ, being redeemed, transformed, sanctified daily. Lord knows where I started. There was a lot of ground to make up to get me, where I needed to be. So that's a work in process. But man, just living by grace. I'm a husband, a dad, a brother, a son, a son-in-law. All the things. A partner. Just kind of figuring it out day by day through life. You know what I mean? I think you get to a certain point and people maybe assume you've reached a level of success or understanding. But me and my wife always joke and say, hey, everything's figure-outable. And that's what we feel like we're doing one day at a time. So I'm just a guy that's trying to live in awe and wonder as opposed to being stressed and concerned about the unknown. I think both of those camps, you lack the same information. One just chooses to kind of trust and lean in. The other wants to control, and I'm trying to just trust and lean in, man.
Yeah. So, like I just read, so grew up playing basketball.
Yes.
So how'd you get started in that? How did it all come about?
Well, people hear the UK and they're like, not soccer, not football, right? So my dad is American.
Okay.
He was playing professional basketball in Scotland.
Okay.
So he met my mom playing ball in Scotland. I was born there.
In Scotland?
In Scotland.
Okay.
Falkirk, Scotland. Shout out if anyone is tuning in from Falkirk, Scotland. I'm with you. And then his professional career took him to Central England, Derby.
Okay.
Americans would say Derby.
Okay.
Derby County would be the associated soccer team.
Okay, yeah.
But so from like a year old until 18, that was hometown. And so I grew up playing football and soccer, obviously, because it's a British pastime.
You had to.
But I was also playing basketball. I was going to watch my dad play even semi-professionally until he was 43. Like, the man just loved the game. Wouldn't give it up.
Wait, he played till he was 43?
He played semi-professional till he was 43, man. Insane. When I gave it up at 22, I think there was a little bit of disappointment there because he felt like I had some good years ahead of me. My body was saying something else. But, just growing up around that, him being American, that was unique. That was different.
Yeah.
I just wanted to follow in his footsteps. I loved basketball. It was one of the things that came a little bit more naturally. Okay. So when it came time to choose between sports and narrow down, kind of that end of middle school, start of high school age, I really didn't have a choice. Because Pops was like, hey, you know where the coaching is going to be. He can't really help. He couldn't help me with soccer, and I was a little bit behind the pace on that. So basketball it was, man.
Okay, so at this point now, middle school-ish, now you're choosing basketball full time. So at this point, was basketball looking like a career for you, or just kind of like, hey, something to do during high school and then going to college?
I wanted to make some type of career out of it. Like, I wanted to be pro. I realized at 14, 15 years old that if I put the work in, the trajectory was there, the contacts were there with my dad having been overseas for a long time and made a lot of friends that were now coaches. At about 15 years old, I was playing up on kind of lower league men's teams and starting to hold my own a little bit. I was starting to get nods for like at first the Scottish international squad, U16s, and then that kind of transitioned into being the England team, which that's a whole story in and of itself, kind of denouncing loyalty to the Scottish team to play for England. I was living in England at the time. There was a little bit of a headbutting between my dad and the Scotland coach, so it was a whole thing. But so having some national team recognition at the junior level, playing up and holding my own with men's teams, I was like, oh, I think I could make something out of this. So that's really when it became real. I think I was always the kid that, maybe once I hit preteen, I was like, yeah, I'm going to be a pro basketball player. Because not a lot of people were focused on that. They were like, basketball
everything was in
England? Yeah. So that was the trajectory at that point. Yeah.
Okay, so now we're following this timeline and go from there. So high school getting done. So how did you end up in the U.S.?
So my last kind of international campaign was with the England U18s, like European Championship team. So I captained that team or co-captained that team, had a really good run in that tournament. I think we finished... It's like a top 6 finish out of 20 odd teams that were at that European B championship level. And at that point, I had an option to go pro or at least semi-pro in the UK.
Okay, so you could stay there.
To stay and get university paid for. To go to, there was an academy in Spain that was really kind of like a feeder team for the Spanish league. For a Spanish league team. But with my dad being American, I had this dream and this desire. I mean, as a British kid watching ESPN, one day, I could play Division I basketball, and so, man, I just kind of took a risk on myself. I knew that I had an opportunity to get school paid for in the UK, so I sent my academic transcript and my basketball film, which is hilarious to think about now, to every team that I'd seen play in the NCAA tournament for the prior years.
And
it just so happened that Oral Roberts had made the tournament for several years before then, so I'd seen their name.
What years was this?
So I'm applying, this is early 2009, maybe late 2008. But ORU had a run where they made the tournament 3 years in a row because they won their conference.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So kind of 06, 07 years,
Okay.
they were really doing that thing. And I sent my game film over, an academic transcript. The school got back and said, hey, you qualify for some educational scholarship.
Yeah.
And one of the coaches got back and said, hey, we'd love to have you come over and try out.
Okay, so
there was
nothing secured.
No. There was ORU and then a couple other small schools that had maybe been surprise tournament run teams.
Okay, yeah.
My mom had come to faith in her 40s, so we had started going to church when I was maybe 10, 11, 12. So she's telling her friends at church, she got into this school has some interest, and then she'd say Oral Roberts University, and they're like, oh, the Oral Roberts with the healing ministry, that great man of faith. And so that kind of piqued her interest.
Okay.
She looked into it from kind of the faith side. She saw the honor code and was like, 100%. If I'm sending my son miles and miles away, I know what he's like. I was ready to break free a little bit. Like I said, I've come a long way in my sanctification journey. So she felt like if she could have me at ORU inside that honor code, it was a good boundary and some guardrails for me.
Okay.
My dad knew it was a good hoop school because he'd actually been recruited
by
ORU back in his day. But as he'll tell you, he wasn't ready for ORU and ORU wasn't ready for him. So it's kind of been a Manghum lineage thing there.
Okay, yeah.
But ORU seemed to make the most sense and a young person kind of figuring out my faith journey. I got baptized when I was 16 for the first time. And there's been a rededication or two since then, but I got baptized at 16 in our home church in the UK. And so it all kind of aligned. There was scholarship opportunity. I came over and had that tryout and did well. There was no scholarship left athletically because we're talking summer and school starts in August. And I'm like, you guys got scholarship money left? They're like, absolutely not. We gave that away months ago. So, but they wanted me to be in a preferred walk-on position.
Okay.
And so I just kind of took a risk, took a gamble on myself and said, let's make it happen.
So, switching real quick, you talked about, so at 16 is when you got baptized. So at what point did faith become real to you?
When I saw my mom's conversion. So my mom had been, and I don't think I knew this at the time. Okay. But there were certain aspects of our home dynamic that were tough. Like there was long stretches where my mom and dad's relationship wasn't great. And so I'd see my mom upset a lot. I'd overheard fights, screaming arguments. I see how tired she was, raising us, running us around to practice. She was high up in what she was doing at the high school that she was working at. She was teaching French, but she was over the behavioral support unit. So all the kids that got kicked out of class, like in school detention, basically. She was over that department with kids that just had crazy home lives. And so she's that woman is amazing. Like she changed the spiritual trajectory for our family. But seeing the shift in her and how much joy she had as we started going to church and seeing it be real for her, I don't even know if I was consciously computing that change. But now in my older age, I'm like, that's what made it attractive was seeing it in my mom. And there was a service that we went to, and there was a guest speaker from overseas. And he had a crazy I can't tell you the guy's name. I know a lot of people are like, I remember the day I got saved in the hour. And I'm like, I don't remember none of that stuff, man. I just remember there was this weird jellyfish guy that had been stung and killed by a jellyfish. And then he came back from death and was given his testimony. And it was translated. So it was a real choppy sermon because he'd speak a little bit and then someone would translate it. And he'd speak a little bit.
Oh, okay.
But then I don't know, something just hit me, man. And I'm like, it's been real for my mom. It's been real for this guy. I think I want a piece of all this. So that's kind of where it started for me. And I was like 12, 13. And it was like I said, it's been an ongoing journey. Baptized at 16. Okay. And then I think getting away and coming to the States and being away from my family. And trying to figure out what does my faith mean to me as an individual. Not because my mom goes to church, not because we do these things as a family, but because it actually means something to me and is real to me. I think really 18 through 22 is where the Lord was like starting to just shape and change things and give me new perspective on everything faith-wise.
So talk to me about that 18 to 22 range. Like that's where like you said, the Lord was trying to get a hold of you and trying to be able to show you what a relationship with him was looking like. So kind of walk me through like what that process was like through all the sanctification, through understanding who God is for you.
Yeah. So I would say prior to then, I was probably, and this may be kind of harsh towards myself, but looking back, I think I was pretty 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Like I was attending church, I was reading my Bible, I was doing the volunteer things, but there were parts of my life where I wasn't fully allowing God access, and I wasn't being honest about the fact he could see everything I was doing. He knew how my heart was in certain areas. I think specifically in the realm of my relationships with the opposite sex. Again, because of what was going on in my household, there was times in my childhood where it felt as though with what my dad had going on, what my mom had going on, it was hard for me to see God as this like loving, caring father, because a lot of what I'd seen was just kind of like disciplinary, authoritarian, like if you step out of line, there's going to be punishment type thing. So it took me a while to really grasp that concept of grace. And so I think just figuring that out in those years where I had the freedom to do what I want. And there wasn't, I mean, there's a curfew at ORU, but I didn't have like my parents, guardrails around me. So just realizing like, man, hey, you know you're not supposed to be doing that, but there's grace. You're starting from a point of grace.
Yeah.
And the reason that you're not supposed to be doing that is because it's not what's best for you. It's not because we're trying to take away fun. It's not because we're trying to have you live a lesser life. I'm like, what? Okay, the parameters that the Bible lines out is for our best interest.
Yes.
And it just took a while for me to really like register that in my 18, 19-year-old head. And I think, the process of being in chapel at ORU, having some good mentorship and discipleship around me, being able to go on a few missions trips and just see how, faith and life is done in other parts of the world. I got the chance to go to Brazil a few times. And just seeing some really healthy family dynamics with the host families there. I was like, man, this stuff's real and it's worth committing to. And I'd kind of turned over some other stones and asked all the kind of real cynical questions like, just one God, just one way, like Jesus is the only way, and kind of was going through some of those kind of theological questions. And I think getting answers in a place like ORU, where it's okay to ask those questions, but they also are very confident about what they believe to be true, kind of reiterated it to me that like this is a strong, sturdy rock to be standing on.
So, interestingly enough, I think everybody comes to this point where they become like convinced. Like there's no, like if you want to try and convince somebody, you have to do it before this point. If you do it after this point, there's no going back. What was that point where you're like, you know what? This is it. Ain't no going back. I've seen too much. I've experienced too much. What was that point of no return for you?
Man, that's such a good question. Wow. Man, there's so much that runs together in my head. Different experience, like mission field experiences, But really, because the whole like relational thing and like my promiscuity, if I can be candid, had led to a point where I was in a relationship where I'm like, I knew I had no business being in this relationship. And this may sound like a silly thing to pray, but I felt like I was so far into it, I didn't really know if there was a way out. It was almost like I've kind of made my bed. I have to lay in it. And do the best I can from here and maybe kind of convince her to come to church with me and all those kind of things, you know what I mean? And I just remember praying like, Lord, if I'm not supposed to be in this relationship, will you just... I'm too scared to have the conversation directly. Would you just tee up the conversation? And I promise if you tee it up just like this, I promise I'll hit it. I promise I'll knock it out of the park. And literally the next week he was like, here you go. And so, but then what I realized is in the aftermath, so that was like part of the moment. But in the aftermath of that, I realized like, man, with the kind of person that I want to be with, the relationship I want to have, the way I want to do things differently than the way I saw my mom and dad do certain things. There was a lot of great things I took, but there was definitely things that I'm like, I don't want this in a marriage. I don't want to raise kids in this type of household. So as I'm believing and praying through those things, I'm like, I'm going to have to be very honest about my past.
Yeah.
And then someone's still going to have to accept me.
Yeah.
And I have this tattoo on my wrist. It's the only tattoo I have.
Yeah.
And it says, God is greater than my highs and lows. Right?
Okay.
And the high, like the up arrow, it's all in like kind of alpha numerical stuff because I'm a math guy.
Yeah, the math side. Yeah.
It's like greater than sign.
Yeah.
But the high is like an upward arrow pointing, and it points directly up to my ring finger. And so I was like, I'm trusting and believing your way for this, and I'm going to do it your way from now on. Yeah. And I believe that the high could be someone willing to commit to putting a ring on this finger. Right? And then when I met my now wife, we kind of go through our initial kind of dating and interest. I'm like, at some point, we're going to have to get real honest about backgrounds and stuff. And she has a completely different background from me. Grew up in the church.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Was kind of, you know what I mean? Like, it was just, it was very different. She had like all the, you know, Christian varsity accomplishments from like middle school and high school, that kind of stuff. Was in a discipleship ministry in a secular college. I'm like, yeah. She's like, heathen.
Yeah.
But, you know, she had a dream one night, and crazy dream, but basically like she was showing up to a wedding, and it was my wedding, but it was to someone else. And I was
wait, she wasn't at
the dream. Okay. We're dating at the time.
Yeah.
And she was like, I was upset because you were upset because you felt you had to marry this person. And it took me back to that, like, I made my bed, I'm going to have to lay in it type situation. Yeah. And so, we had a whole conversation about my background, about my past, and all that kind of stuff. And the way she responded was, it was like the most tangible experience of grace I've ever felt in my life. And I'm like, there's no way all that can happen, that the relationship dynamic could be like my big concern for my future, that this, you know, I feel strongly enough that I would get something tattooed on my body about believing God for more. Yeah. And then this person comes along, and she's far exceeding any expectations, and she's covering me in grace, not out of her own ability and power, but because she has a real relationship. Yeah. And I was like, oh, you could never convince me otherwise. Wow. Yeah. And I'll double down. I don't know if we want to go here, but like so because of some of my decisions previously in those relationships, I had a physical situation where I was told you basically have like a sexually transmitted disease that never goes away. Wow. It's not like rampant. It doesn't like, but like it's there now. Yeah. And you can keep it dormant through medication, but like it's not going anywhere.
It's not going anywhere.
So not only did I have to share with my now wife about my kind of past choices, but now it's like, hey, if you choose me,
you get in this bag.
You're choosing this too.
Yeah. Wow.
And in the midst of that, she showed grace.
Wow.
And we're doing premarital counseling. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, that felt this is bad. Like it felt too easy. Like she just accepted it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And she had enough faith to say, I believe you can get healed from this. Wow. And I don't know where your listeners are at on like physical healing.
Right. We all the way there. We all the way there.
So she was like, I believe you can get healed. And she was like, throw away the medicine. I was like, if something would have happened, like a flare-up was to happen, it can be painful. Yeah. I don't know if that's a good idea. She's like, do you believe you can be healed? Like, do you believe that God is a healer and that he loves you? Do you think he's capable of healing you? And I'm like, yeah. Will he? Feels like a different question. Yeah. Is he capable? Absolutely. Wow. She's like, I think you need to believe for it. And I was like, all right. Threw it away. Wow. And 3-4 weeks before our wedding, I went back to the doctor's office and got tested. No sign of it. No detection. And I'm telling you, like, it's in your blood. Wow. You know what I mean? Like, as long as you've been off the medication for a period of time, like, they will detect it if it's there. Wow. I called. I was like, hey, how accurate are your tests? Wow. They were like, were you exposed in the last however long? I'm like, no, it's been way longer than that. Have you taken the medication in the last? No, it's been way longer than that. So you don't have any STIs or STDs? None.
Wow.
And I have not had a single issue ever.
Wow.
So her faith and her grace made what is written about and spoken about in so many arenas tangible and real to me. There's no like, you couldn't convince me otherwise. So I wasn't planning on going there necessarily, but that's where the conversation flowed. So
no, I'm glad you went there, man. It's interesting how, like, you had a point now. You can't go back. Mikey. Sorry, you can't go back.
Yeah.
But to see that your wife, like, it's interesting. Like, when you don't have faith, if you're around someone that does have faith, that faith can jump on you.
Oh yeah.
And the Bible talks about you, like, the Bible says, you become what you keep seeing. You become what you behold. You become what you look at.
Yeah.
Like, you were around that environment.
Yes.
And it was contagious.
Yeah.
Her faith was contagious to you. And then the thing was, I love the fact that she was like, she challenged you, but ultimately it was a decision you had to make.
For sure.
She couldn't convince you. She said, do you believe it? So she put the ball in your court now. So you have to figure out, hey, is this really real now?
Yeah. She checked me.
Yeah. Man. But ultimately, she kind of helped you get on that path to believe in God.
Yeah.
And to see. So let me ask you this. Mm-hmm. So throughout that period, throughout that process, what was going through your mind? Okay, you had this conversation with her.
Yeah.
I believe that God can heal me. Okay, that's the first step. That seed was planted. Now you're starting to believe. So from there to 4 weeks before the wedding, you getting tested. How did you walk out that healing? What was going through your mind? What were the things that you were doing throughout that time frame to make sure that your faith was stirred up, your faith was on, your faith was continuing to be strong?
Well, that's a good question, because honestly, I feel like you even look at like heroes of the faith in the Bible. It's like a day by day, hour by hour conversation. You know what I mean? We just studied Gideon, and the Lord's like, "Hey, you're a mighty man of valor," and he's like, "You sure about that?" You know what I mean? Like, he's like, "Hey, just prove to me again,
twice,
one more game, just show me one more time." You know. So I felt like it was a lot of that, man. Like I had a group of folks that were kind of praying through it with us, for us, interceding for us. I was continuing to pray about it. There'd be times I'd feel really encouraged, and I'm like, man, this, and then kind of the doubt creeps in. It's like, that's stupid. You really think that's going to happen? That it's scientifically not supposed to happen. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I would allow my like worldly level of vision to creep back in, and I would just have to keep bringing it back to truth. And I think that's all you can do, is because God is always calling you, I think, to a version of yourself that you're probably not at right now. Yeah. And you really have a hard time kind of seeing for yourself. And so it's like you have to remind yourself that like truth supersedes your emotion, and that identity precedes activity. So who you are in Christ and what he says to be true about you trumps all of it. So you have to have some type of like central, rock to come back to, and he is that.
My mentor always, he would tell me this. He was like, you can't stop a bird from building a nest. Mm-hmm. Or no, you can't stop a bird from trying to land on your head. Yeah. But you could stop it from building a nest. As they come, bird could come, land there. Your job is to. But if you don't, they're going to sit there and get those twigs and build that nest, and they're going to stay there. And he said that's exactly how thoughts are. He said, your thoughts, sometimes you can't even control what thought comes into your head. Yeah. But what you could do is you could get it out of there.
That's right.
And to see like how you're talking about like very real, where you had those moments where, man, is this real? Yeah. But then, like you said, it points you back to the truth. As you realize, you know what? God is bigger than what I can think. Yeah. The God that created all of this, my very life, everything that I see, he's able to do this. Yeah. And so he had to point you back to truth. Absolutely. And so let me ask you, so what was your wife's role in all of this? Now that you're at this point where you're believing, how did she support you in all of this? What was her faith level like? What was she doing to make sure like, hey, you know what? We're on this path and we're staying on this path. Yeah. Well, so I mean, post that conversation where she's asking me, do you believe? Up until the time, I think to some degree she we had that conversation. Yeah. But then she kind of maybe just like, it wasn't an ongoing like, hey, are you believing? Like, hey, there wasn't like a check-in like that. She was just like, she put it out there. I should leave it to you. She knew I took action with a little bit of extra encouragement. And then it was like, she
she forgot that I was going back to get retested. Like it was a surprise to her when I kind of, she was like, oh, I didn't even realize you went back and got the blood test. And I was like, you know what I mean? So I think for her, we're just kind of going through your typical, like, we're engaged at this point.
Okay.
So, I mean, she's just planning a wedding.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, hey, you need to get your faith together. I'm picking out our colors. You know what I mean? Like, I'm figuring out who the caterer is. So I need you to handle that right there. You know what I mean? And she's so sweet and awesome. But like, yeah, it wasn't like an ongoing, like she put the line in the sand. Yeah. And she was like, all right, I'll let you do leave it from there. Yeah.
So from that time to the time you got tested, how long was that? From the time you told her
so we were only engaged. Oh, from the time I told her? I told her while we were dating. Like, okay. And really not even like exclusively dating. I felt like she needed to know way earlier. Yeah. Her response when I first told her was like, hey, there's no line that's going to be crossed prior to marriage anyway. Right. So we'll cross that bridge if and when we get to it. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then we got engaged and it kind of wasn't really we didn't circle back to it. And then we were in premarital counseling and that's where it kind of came back up. So that period from when we got engaged to when we were married was only a little over 6 months. Wow. I had told her probably 7 months before we got engaged. Okay. So this is all happening over about a year-long span. Yeah. But like when it came back up as like, hey, this is something she's concerned about. Yeah. To when we had that tough conversation and then the testing before the wedding, that was a fairly short 3 to 4 month span.
And, the reason I asked that was because there's times where people, their belief, they're in this process where they're believing God. Yeah. And there was like, well, if it didn't happen, it didn't happen. Yeah. But if you go throughout the Bible, there's different accounts where people were healed instantly. Yep. People were healed within an hour. Yeah. People were healed over time. Yeah. And this serves as like an encouragement to you guys that's listening. Like, if you're believing God for something like the Bible talks about in Mark 11, like whatsoever things you desire when you pray, believe that you've received them. Mm-hmm. And you will have them. Mm-hmm. And there's an understanding of this part where when you speak something and you're believing something in faith, something happens in the spiritual realm. Yeah. At that moment you spoke and at that moment you believe it, it happened. Yeah. The delivery system called time is what it takes to get here in the physical. Yeah. You don't know how long that'll be. That might be like that. Yeah. It might take a couple of days. It might take a couple of weeks. It might take some years. Mm-hmm. But we don't know how long the delivery system is. The truck may run out of gas coming here, but at some point it will get here. Yeah. And that time, in that period where people have to wait, mm-hmm. that's the hard part for most folks because that requires patience. Mm-hmm. And patience ain't never fun. No. For nobody. Nobody likes it. Yeah. But it's a blessing to see like how in between that you spoke something, you believed something, and then throughout 6 months, in this case, your delivery system took 6 months to get. Well, and that's the thing. Like, you don't think I was believing for it before? Like the moment I found out, I was like, "Oh no, Lord, no!" It had been years. Wow. It was, since she came onto the scene, it was a shorter time frame. Yeah. I had gotten to the point where, and the reality is like not every healing is physical like that. There's other things, So I felt like there had to be a healing of my mind and the healing of my spirit before the physical could ever take place. Yeah. Because if it happened too quick, I'd be liable to go make the same stupid decision again. So the time forced it to carry a weight. Yeah. And honestly, I'd gotten to the point where it was like, man, maybe this is the thorn in my flesh. Yeah. And maybe it's not, Yeah. And she kind of reignited, kind of believing for a physical healing. Yeah. But I also felt like I was at a point where even if it didn't happen that way, I would choose to trust. And I don't know fully where I land on that. It's like, well, obviously continue to believe, but I think that is the challenge for anyone in any situation is like, how can you continue to believe and speak in faith with fervor, but be okay with the time it's taking? Because I think that's the hard part. We have some kind of made up timeline in our head, and it's like, well, I'll believe until this point, and if it's not done by then, I'll just hang them up. You know what I mean? I'll take an alternative action.
Yeah,
I'll figure it out.
It must be something else. It must be something else. So, and that's the part that I think it only really gets developed when you walk through something like that. I don't know if you can get there off like theoretical. Yeah.
Faith
know?
got to be experienced.
Yeah,
You got to go through some
Oh,
things. Your faith got to grow. Just
Yeah.
like that muscle, just like you
Yeah.
exercising that muscle, you got to keep.
That's right.
That's exactly how
That's
faith
right.
is. You go from one test to the next, and as you keep growing, you get stronger and stronger and stronger.
Yeah.
And you can believe for more and more and more.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. That's the whole premise of this ministry.
Yeah, there you
faith,
go.
you're going from glory to glory to glory. You're going to
Yeah.
believe for more and more and more. Man, that's a blessing, man, to hear how God has touched you and your family, man. And now you can be able to help and testify of God's goodness to others.
Yeah.
That nothing is impossible.
Nothing.
Not even what science says, what the doctors. I mean, the doctor's just a person. They
Yeah.
put their pants on one leg at a time,
That's
just like
right.
anybody
Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
They don't know everything, and so we know the person knows it. We know the God that knows it all,
That's right.
and He could say that's not the case.
Yeah.
And in this case, man, He restored. Oh man, I'm getting excited. I'm getting excited just thinking
Yeah.
about it. Wow, God is so good, man.
Yeah.
He is so
Yeah.
good. So, switching gears here.
Yeah.
So while at ORU,
Mm-hmm.
you talked about this is where you found your spot. This is what you knew you were gonna do. You knew you were gonna end up in finance
Yes.
at some point.
Yep.
So, and I know we talked offline about this, but like talked about how God opened up a crazy door.
Yeah.
So kind of for those that don't know, obviously I do, but for our listeners, kind of run us through this whole wow factor.
For how I chose the career.
How you chose the career and
Okay.
then how the door opened up after that.
Man. Okay. So when I was at ORU, I started off as a math major. I had transferred
Big
in
mistake.
so many. Yeah. Well, I had transferred in so many credits from the UK.
Okay. Yeah.
So it was like, hey, you're a third of the way towards a math degree.
yeah.
And my focus was really basketball. So I'm like, yeah, I like math. We'll see, First semester, I'm in calculus 3 with a lot of engineers.
Oh.
And I'm like, this is physics, It's just math applied to like physics.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is not fun. And so, but I made it through the class. And then the next class for the math majors and the engineers was something called differential equations. And they all call it diffie-Q. And I'm like, I'm sorry. If it sounds like the word difficult, I think I need a different major. So I went and saw an accounting professor that I really liked. He was a basketball fan. And so he said, Mikey, we would love to have you in the accounting department, but I think you have more of a personality for finance. And I was like, all right, I'm a freshman. I don't know any different. Okay, I'll switch to finance. And I took a class called Personal Financial Planning.
Yep.
PFP.
That's how they get you.
And I was like, I love this. Like if my parents would have had this, it would have helped them with some of their financial stuff. I'm like, I can help people with this. Like people stress about money. Like this, I want to know it for me, but then I want to help other people understand it. Because I realized pretty quickly, I'm like, there's a lot of jargon.
Yeah.
People don't understand the jargon.
Yeah.
But it's pretty simple once you have an understanding. There's not enough people out there explaining it simply to people. And so I was like, man, that could be marketplace ministry. I feel like I could really help people with that. And so that's what got me started on that path. I didn't like a lot of the firms I interviewed with right out of college. I just didn't feel like it was either holistic enough or it felt a little bit too sales based.
Yeah.
Which I understand that sales makes the world go around in the US at least, but I'm like, I don't think I should be like selling or convincing someone on their own financial future. I think it needs to be a guiding consultative process. And so just gained a wealth of knowledge and experience at the first firm I was at, but kind of felt a prompting like, hey, I think there's going to be a different direction in store.
Yeah. Yeah.
And around the time I'm feeling that, I had a friend that had moved over to help start the private wealth division at a very well-known kind of regional bank here in town. Faith-based bank was getting a lot of publicity, kind of like faith and business related type work. But they didn't have a wealth management division. And so I was pursuing an independent route simultaneously to him kind of getting things off the ground. And we just ended up having a few conversations along the way. And I was like, I'm thinking about partnering with this firm to get it off the ground. And he's like, oh, we're thinking about partnering with that firm to get it off the ground. I was like, oh, that's awesome, man. I know you've got a running mate over there. Like if anything ever opens up, let me know.
Yeah.
And like a couple of weeks later, he's like, hey, funnily enough, the guy that was going to build it with me is no longer on the scene. Would you like to do what you're doing, but just do it with us?
Yeah.
And also you can be the VP and there's, kind of ownership opportunity and all those kind of things. I'm like, that sounds incredible. Yeah. I would love to consider that. Yeah. So that's very recent. I mean, we're sitting here in the middle of 2025. That happened middle of 2024, right before our third son was born. And so, yeah, man, it's been a crazy journey, but now kind of just a beautiful array of clientele on a day-to-day basis. Everyone from kind of, we call them like Henrys, high earners, not rich yet,
Okay.
Right. So like the up and comers in the world,
Yeah.
trying to figure out, hey, we're first generation rich or like
Yeah.
making money.
Yeah.
We want to do the right thing. We want to
How do
have
we
an
do it?
estate
Yeah.
plan. We want to save for the future. To the people that have amassed their wealth and they're thinking about the best way and most tax efficient way to transition
Yeah.
it to the next generation. So
Yeah.
what I love about it is it's a people business.
Yes.
Money matters to folks, so they take it seriously.
Yep.
That they want to know your advice, but it's, there's never like just one way to downtown. It's like, hey, we could go this way, we could go this way. That different ways to look at it. And so I truly feel like I'm on the same side as the table.
Yeah.
Of them. Almost like a personal CFO to their family household, helping them make those big decisions. Because really, all people are looking for is clarity and confidence. You can Google a lot of stuff, and even the jargon, you could ask ChatGPT to like explain this to a 5-year-old, and they'd break it down.
Yep.
The issue is when you're trying to get tax insight, estate planning insight, insurance insight, investment insight, when are you having all those conversations?
Yeah, no, you're not.
I get home from work, and it's kid stuff and soccer practice and conversations with my wife. So at 9 p.m., we're not like, hey, let's do a deep dive into our financial plan. And it's the same for other folks. They're busy. And so we get to kind of partner with them in that and help them offload some of that burden and just create something they can be proud of, that they can be proud of. Not what they think the world thinks they should be pursuing.
Right.
Like define success for you and let's reverse engineer that financially. That's what I love to do.
Huh. So you talked about, so how is your faith on display in the workplace? Because I mean, you're like, obviously it's different in 21st century. You talk about God, HR, you go into HR next day. Mm-hmm. And so how is your faith, like you talked about, what's that ministry marketplace look like for you in your space?
Well, so the bank's already done a lot of the hard work in figuring out, hey, legally, what can we do from a faith-based standpoint? Like they're proud of their faith. And so they figured out a lot of the HR stuff. Like a lot of it is just you can offer.
Okay, yeah.
Nothing's required. People don't get written up if they don't attend the prayer meeting. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, we just have these things and we offer it to you. So we just try to lead with love. Like it can be very practical, like the way we treat our employees, the way we treat our clients. Like it's not about a transaction. It's about a relationship. Yeah. We offer to pray with them. My partner and I joke and say, we're going to pray for our clients. It's either with them or behind their back. You know what I mean? Yeah. So we just kind of come at it with that approach and we measure it. So we're measuring like how many new conversations did we have this week? How many referrals did we get? Because we want to say thank you for those. How many touch points have we had to wish people happy birthday, happy anniversary, whatever it might be? Yeah. Hey, how many clients or prospects did we pray for this week? Every Monday. How many people did we do that for last week? And so when you keep it at the forefront, like what you audit gets improved, right?
Yeah,
so like we put it in there as a measure so that it stays at the forefront of our mind and we think about doing it and we just live it out. Because I honestly think it's getting to the point where like believers in the marketplace are going to be the evangelists, not necessarily because you're out there in the middle of the street saying, oh, turn now from your sins or you're going to burn in hell. It's wow, man, there's something different about you, the way you carry yourself. You've had a lot of success, like you have influence in your industry. Like, what's different about you, man? I'd love to tell you.
Yeah,
because it really ain't me. You know, you want to hear about my broken storyline to get me hit. Like it's all grace. You know what I mean? So that, and I think that's what's gonna capture people's attention in this kind of next generation.
It's interesting that you said it. Like my mentor has taught us. He was like, in this day and age that we're in now, people are going to constantly be asking. He said they're going to follow the money. When they follow the money and you're a part of God's family, he said God's going to give you he's going to give you the platform and the position to be there. And he said when they come to you and they ask you, how'd you get the money? You point them back to God. Because that's what this generation is focused on. Things. Yeah. How can they get this? How can they 10x this, do this? Yeah. And if you as a believer have all of that, people are going to ask you, how'd you do it? How'd you become successful?
They want to know.
And that's your opportunity to plant that seed. Hey, this is how it happened. Yeah. Because I served a God that opened up doors to bless me. And extended grace and mercy to me. Yeah. And he blessed me with this. Yeah. And that's how you do it. Like you said, that's the business people of the modern day evangelists. Yeah, I think so. And for me, I think even that's been a process of patience because I didn't have a ton of success right away in my industry. I knew I was called to the industry, but it was hard. It was a grind. Like my partner and I, we worked together at the previous firm, and we always joke and say we trauma bonded because you're building a business from scratch. You know what I mean? Like there was a lot of crying on each other's shoulders. Like how are we gonna make it? Yeah.
there was a point, and I'm in the financial industry, there was a point my wife and I both got paid and our checking account was still negative. We had to move in with family to make this dream and this vision work. It made no sense. But during that time, I fell out of love with the worldly stuff that was like initially attracting me. It's like, oh, the stuff and the memberships and like I got to a point where I was like, man, I'm not even chasing that anymore. I just want to take care of my wife. I want to provide a good lifestyle for my boys. I want them to see certain things and be exposed to certain things. Yeah. And the rest of it, like, if there's an opportunity for us to add a few things in our life that helps with convenience, that's great. Yeah. But I'm like, I need a car big enough to carry my kids. Yeah. I don't need to be like, look at my new blah, blah, blah. I'm like, it's not even a financially great decision for me at this stage. You know what I mean? So it's like, I got to a point where it was like the Lord needed to break enough of that stuff off. Yeah. Where it's like, hey, if I give you this platform, if I give you this influence, if you have this title that means stuff to other people, can I trust you with it? Or is it going to go to your head? And I'm hard-headed, as you've probably deduced from this conversation. Like, it took me a while to get there. But it was like when I finally just said, you know what?
It don't even matter.
Yeah. You tell me how to budget. You tell me what needs to go. You tell me what, when I got there, it's like, oh, wow. Stuff started to happen. Yeah. You know?
Dang. So, talk to me, and I was going to end it, but no, I feel prompted to ask this question. Talk to me about that part right there, where you talked about when you first came, like the financial industry is all about making money, beating goals year after year, quarter after quarter. Yep. And I mean, that's just how the American system and culture is. Like, you have to be on this grind. Yeah. So talk to me about that from that perspective, from going from that all out grind and trying to make it happen to getting to a place where, you know what, God, you do what you want to do. I'll trust you. Yeah. And then you have that peace and that trust in God and how he provided things that you couldn't. The things that you were seeking after, he came and provided all along.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you know, again, it's a few examples. I like mentioned Gideon earlier, but it was like when that army got reduced down to like a couple hundred dudes, you know what I mean? And it was like, well, now, because you're going in with this reality, there's no way you could say you did it. You know what I mean? And so I think some of that is just understanding what's being cut away and what's just being pruned to create more space. I'm like, it all hurts. Cutting off permanently and then just pruning, it's still cut. Yeah. Like, it's still a cut. Yeah. Being buried and being planted, they both feel like death, but one is to produce something so much greater. And I think just understanding that the reason why you hear the same types of stories in business of it's like, man, I got to the point where the debt collectors were coming after me and I was in trouble with the IRS and then my business, it's because a biblical truth and principle applies regardless of what you believe. Yes. Like, you have to get to a point where it's like, I'm all in, or, you know, I'm like fully trusting or I'm fully committed to something. But yeah, I think just part of that, we spoke about this earlier, like some stuff just has to happen. You can't learn theoretically. You have to go through it yourself. But I will say one of the most powerful exercises that my last CEO from our previous firm walked us through, and for anyone listening, I think this is super powerful, whether it's to help you with your finances or just your vision in life and not being caught up in comparison, right? Because comparison is a thief.
Oh, that kills.
So, and it happens so much in the finance industry. Yes. We're keeping up with the Joneses, all that kind of stuff. We walked through an exercise where he was basically like, what age are you going to die? And I was like, what? He said, just what number comes to mind? What age are you going to die? And I'm like, 87. I just threw out a number. Yeah. And it's really irrelevant. Like, you don't have to be thinking like, when am I going to die? But at 87, what has to be true in your relationships, in your career / purpose, because you're probably retired, right? Your finances, your physical well-being and health, and then your emotional and spiritual well-being. What has to be true at 87 in those 5 areas for you to say, man, I ran my race well. I've lived a legacy I'm proud of. I'm leaving something great for the next generation. Yeah. Like, spend time and think about that and write it down. And if you have a spouse, write it down with your spouse. Yeah. And once you actually, because most people don't do what the Bible says, write the vision down.
Yeah, no. Make it plain.
Make it plain. Write it down. Like, once I did that, it was like And I prayed through that too. So it was like, I don't want to just write down what I think is great. Like, what's really the most meaningful, impactful life that I could live holistically across these areas?
Yeah.
And when I had spelled that out,
Yeah.
all the other stuff just seemed less like, you know what I mean? Like, to some people, it may be like, oh, I want to drive a sports car. If you want to drive a sports car, that's incredible. I have 3 boys. I'm 6'2". They're probably going to be fairly tall.
They don't fit
What the heck are the 4 of us going to do in a sports car? I need to believe for a Tahoe. Come on, Jesus. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, when you have that vision, it's like, man, if you want a sports car, bro, I'm so happy. You've been believing for that. That was your dream car, and it happened. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I don't think the Lord cares what you're driving, but just in terms of like, man, I'm happy for you. And I can celebrate that and have no jealousy, because that does not work for my vision and my family.
Exactly.
And so I think that exercise for me, and hopefully that gives someone else some freedom. But like, if you work through that and you get, you're praying through what needs to be on that list, I think it just helps with killing off the stuff that, doesn't need to be there. Yeah. Like I'm kind of a sucker for fast food, fried chicken. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'd love some fried, fit that stereotype, bro. Yeah. But one of my health goals is that I want to be stronger than and beat my sons in sports, at least until they go to high school. Yeah. I can't be eating fried chicken to make that happen. I need to be on a Mediterranean diet. I need to be, intermittent fasting. I need, So there's certain things about my lifestyle that have changed because that vision is more important than my instant gratification.
That's good.
And so that would be kind of an encouragement as you're thinking through, like, how do I strip myself to the tie to all these things? Some of that's still going to be worldly in a sense. Yeah. But now it's not like I'm grasping in every next thing, because you're crystal clear on what the vision is for your life.
You're focused on, Man, that's good. So, Mikey, one way we always like to end each podcast. Yeah. For everyone that's listening on the other end of this camera, what advice would you tell your younger self or someone that's listening so that they can save time, they can save all that headache? What advice would you give them?
Oh, man, I'd give them the advice that we don't listen to, because we have to learn it the hard way about, trusting God and just believe it, which the advice would be, know what the Bible says about you and your identity and what biblical principles for success are, and lean into them. Don't fight them. But I think for me, younger me would just have to hear, like, the gap between where you are and where you want to be is your preparation and God's provision. That's the formula. Don't dilly-dally, don't delay. Like, once you have an understanding of like what that future version of you could look like, if God reveals some type of vision of you for the future, your job is to prepare. It's not to make that outcome happen. It's to do the things that person would be doing in preparation, and then trust God with the rest. Everything else he makes up for.
I love that you said that. It's not your job to make that vision happen. It's your job to prepare.
That's
you
right.
do what you're supposed to do. Let God do the rest. Man, that's good. That's good. Do what you're supposed to do. Let God do the rest. You don't have to figure it out.
Yeah.
Just do your part.
Yeah.
Mikey Manghum, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes,
man,
sir.
Thank you so much for being on the podcast, man. I really appreciate like you just being open, honest, authentic, transparent. Yeah. Because I'm pretty sure, I guarantee you, someone's going to hear this and like, wow, man, this dude been through it.
Yeah.
Like, you've been through it, but look at him now.
That's it. Hey, if someone could say, man, if he can do it, you could do it. Yes and amen.
and that's the whole reason why we exist.
Yeah.
So people can see like, hey, this is not stuff we just read on a book or in a page.
Yeah.
This is stuff that people are living out.
Yeah.
And we have stories that can be able to validate the things that are in the Bible.
Yeah.
We could talk about how, in the Bible, it talks about how God's a healer.
Yeah.
Well, you got people in the 21st century saying, hey, man, God's a healer. This is an account right here.
100%.
And so it's a blessing to be able to see how we're able to validate what's in the Bible. And to be able to share these stories with people, because there are people that maybe trust in God and maybe whatever. But to be able to hear something like the impossible was done, man, it does something to your faith.
Yeah.
It's like it takes it to another level.
Yeah.
And so, man, I really appreciate you just coming on, just sharing what God has done in your life and your family's life, and to see like, man, God's bigger than what we could even think or imagine.
Yeah. Well, thank you for creating the space, man. We spoke offline, but we didn't go in half of those directions.
No, but man, the Holy Spirit had a different plan.
Moving.
The Holy Spirit had a different plan for this episode, man. So, well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have to wrap this episode up. But like I said in the beginning, hey, if this is new to you, if you're new here, hey, consider hitting that like button, hit that subscribe button, turn that notification bell on so you are aware when new episodes are released and that you can be able to consume them and be able to build your faith higher and higher and higher. And hey, if you want to take your faith just one step further, consider becoming a partner here with this ministry. You can follow the link below, it'll take you to our website, and you can become a financial partner with us there to be able to help us do this, take these stories of faith around the world to the people that need them. And then lastly, if something's going on in your life, we would love to know about it. You can drop a comment below in that comment section, and we would love to celebrate what God's doing in your life. And so do those things for me because it helps the ministry. It helps us be able to go from level to level to level, be able to extend our reach to people that are consuming this content. We've had people listening from Brazil, China, the UK, obviously here in America, the Bahamas. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. They're being able to receive this content because of us and you being able to share this message, being able to partner with us to be able to do what we've been called to do. And so thank you so much in advance. And so, like I said, we're going to have to sign off for today. My name is Yvonne Williamson, and this has been Faith Ignite. We'll see you guys next time.